Ciao ragazzi, welcome to episode 184 of Serie Sit-Down. Obviously with the intro music, you know I'm alone tonight, no Frank Crivello, but doesn't mean I'm alone on the podcast. As you can tell by the headline in the show, we are going to preview the big leg 2 of the Europa League clash between Milan and Manchester United. Obviously, I'm going to bring in the help a little bit here, and we're going to bring in Hader Rubani. Welcome to the show, my man, the man from the Football Masterclass.
Thank you for having me, mate. Honestly, and I love the intro. It looks so slick. It looks really professional, mate. I love it. So that's brilliant. And it's always a pleasure because we followed each other for a while, haven't we? Obviously, we have a few sort of mutual followers and people that we, in the podcast game. And I've been meaning to get you on. So I'm really honored to be here. And yeah, I just hope that United win the next leg because we were really, really bad.
We'll get into that next leg here. But the honors, obviously, the pleasure is all ours to have you on here. Before we get into this, tell our viewers, for those who may not be familiar with you, a little bit about you and a little bit about your podcast, because it's an excellent podcast. It's a must follow. Please, let us know.
Thanks, man. Yeah, so we've changed our names like 2 or 3 times now. So we used to be Premier League Trio. So I started it with my 2 brothers. One's an Arsenal fan, one's a Chelsea fan. So you can imagine what sort of conversations. Yeah, it gets a bit spicy in the household. And then we changed it to Elite Football Show, and then we rebranded again. So we're now the Football Masterclass. So the key show and the main show really is the Masterclass, the tactical podcast. So myself and journalist who's written for many outlets now, like Bleacher Report and a few others. Rob Blanchett, he's fantastic. It's a real tactical show because I think the problem is there's so many fan channels out, especially in the Man United game, where it's reactionary. Not everyone's like that, but there's a lot of reactionary takes, a lot of misinformation, not enough knowledge. So we really wanted to provide something which was balanced, which was detailed, and breaking down the sort of football jargon into like digestible, information. So we do that. I do a few player analysis shows. I've had a few other of the Serie guys on. Sometimes I'll do, for example, like a Roma episode or a Milan episode, like I did with Rui. So yeah, just going really well. We moved on to YouTube last year and enjoying it, and just enjoying talking about football because there's just so much going on in the world right now, and you just want to sit down and talk about your club and, hope they win because it hasn't been the best 7 years for Manchester United or Milan.
That is true. Both clubs, both Frank and I, we say all the time that, Milan and Manchester often mirror each other. 2 great clubs that have had their upswings and downswings, right? Great successes and great failures, it seems like. So it's just after we're playing each other in the Europa League. And we also started about a year ago on the YouTube as well. And, obviously you guys are doing, a fantastic job. And we're just trying to emulate you. You talked about how it's hard in the game, especially with our 2 clubs. There are a lot of teams, a lot of podcasts, a lot of, YouTubes about our clubs. And it's we thought about doing our Milan thing ourselves, but, we said, we're just going to stick to the Serie A thing. We're not even going to attempt that because, there's so many out there. But the way you guys are doing it are spot on. So, real quick, before we get into the game, let's talk about United's season thus far. You guys are, we talked about being mirrored. We both had some struggles in the past years. You've had a little bit more success than we have of late, but this year we're both second place. We both have big games today against clubs that are trying to be in the Champions League spot. So tell us about, how the season's gone thus far, because I know you've had some successes like wins against City, big win against Southampton, my team that I'm a little passionate about. 9-0 there, little big there. But you've also had some losses as well to like Tottenham, big loss there. So yeah, just tell us how your season's gone so far up to this point.
I feel bad about the Saints song because I'm a big fan of Hassan Hutel. Me personally, I live sort of just outside London, and not too far from Southampton, maybe about 40 minutes. And I always enjoy going down and going down and especially for away days, and watching United at Southampton. But look, I guess you probably see the same thing because as a Milan fan, we've both got really big fan bases. We're both fallen giants. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. I always say, and we spoke off air, I always say that we mirror each other, don't we? And we've both, I think one of Man United's biggest positives and probably the reason why we maybe won't go down to the depths that you guys have gone because it's been bad for Milan, is that I think Manchester United have so much money. They're such a commercial giant that we're able to buy our way out of the problems.
Right.
Usually. COVID's hit us. So last 7 years have been very, very difficult. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's come in and for me personally, and I've been battling on my timeline all day today, someone's just screenshotted one of my tweets from 6 weeks ago where I praised Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and said, oh, well, you're flip-flopping now because you're being negative. You know how it is. So look, at the end of the day, he's done a lot of good. You have to look at football holistically. You have to look at it as many different facets. It's not just about what happens on the pitch. It's not just, there's things like recruitment, there's academy development, there's what goes off the pitch. Manchester United haven't had a structure. They haven't had a director of football ever in their history. Now they've just appointed one internally. We've got a technical director. These things are really important for a club the size of Manchester United. Even like Milan, obviously you had Ivan Gazidis, you had the whole thing with Boban, you had Maldini, you know, striking the balance between what you did in the past when we had Sir Alex Ferguson. Obviously you had Ancelotti and you had Allegri. He's a fantastic manager. You haven't won a title since then. We haven't won a title since back in 2013 as well. So trying to bring the clubs, our club, especially and yours as well, into the modern age is very difficult. So one of the biggest positives, though, is that United have stopped the rot, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer deserves all the credit for that. He's got players out that didn't want to be there. I know Lukaku's tearing it up, but he didn't want to be there. And it's a revisionism to say, oh, we should have kept Lukaku. The Man United, Romelu Lukaku was not overweight. He was bulky. He was heavy.
He was.
He was not. What you're seeing right now is prime Romelu Lukaku, but he's playing for a manager that wants
his first season at Inter, he looked the same as he did United, and then he lost the weight, and now he looks just a phenomenal player. So
it's difficult, isn't it? Because football fans, they don't think about the, you know, for example, Lukaku Man United is not Lukaku at Inter. So what he's done is he shipped out the players that don't want to be there. He has been let down by the board. You have to admit that. We've got a really, really bad ownership, a really bad board. They take money out of the club. They don't invest any money in the club. They bought the club in promiscuous circumstances, all these things. You've got to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer credit. You know, right now, the table doesn't lie. We're in second place. How do I feel about our season so far? As you said, highs and lows, naturally, and that comes. Progression isn't linear. I mean, I saw in Milan, they were sitting top for a long time, weren't they? And then you've had a dip, you've had injuries. Similar to Manchester United, I think the way I see football is I want to see a manager that comes in, or whoever's a manager, who has a philosophy. I want to be able to say, right, this is Manchester United. Like you do with Pep Guardiola, you know how he's going to play. You know, the fullbacks are going to come in, essentially. You know, the wingers are going to provide width. You know that you're going to have essentially 2-8s. Or, you know, Kevin De Bruyne and let's say an Ilkay Gundogan picking up those pockets of spaces. You know, with Klopp, you know, he's going to play his fullback, going to push up really high. Yep. You know, the midfield are going to work very, very hard. You know, Firmino is going to drop. You know, the Salah and Mane are going to make those out to in runs. You know how they're going to play.
Yep.
My issue is that, you know, if United play on the counter attack, they can beat anyone. They beat Manchester City. Right. But the problem arises when you play teams with a low block, and time again, United have struggled to break teams down. And that's my problem, because that's where you say you got to coach these guys to move the ball quickly, to overload the wide areas, you know, quick one-touch passing to try and break down these low blocks. And I think one of my issues is that I think Manchester United, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a fantastic man manager. But what I struggle with at the moment, Richard, is I'm saying he's not on the level of Pep Guardiola. He's not on the level of Klopp, which is what Man United should have. Yeah. Even Pioli, right? So I know we'll talk about the game, but you had maybe 5 or 6 players out, like us, key players, right? But who looked like the better dual side? Who looked like you didn't have any players out? Whose system was so strong that, despite the fact you didn't have Zlatan, you didn't have Benacer, obviously Rebic is out as well, Çalhanoğlu, all these players, you still looked very fluid going forward. Yeah, Man United had the same amount of players out, and we looked really, really bad. And that's my concern. You should be able to take a few players out, and the system is so strong that the gap in quality shouldn't be that big. It should be minimal. Look, you take Paul Pogba out, you put in Fred, there's going to be a difference. So that's where I'm sitting right now. And the thing is, it sounds logical, doesn't it? I'm sitting with you right now. We're talking about it. It's logical. These are fair arguments. But you say this on Twitter, in the Twitter world. Oh, well, Ollie's done this, and this. And it's difficult. But I'll stay true to myself. And look, he's done so much good. If he gets into the top 4, he will get another contract. He probably deserves it. And he deserves to try and finish the project that he's on. Am I convinced he's going to win the title at Manchester United? No, I'm not. But that's because he's not as good as Pep Guardiola, and who is.
Right. No, it's so true, and I think the point you made about him, Ole being a man manager, not so much a tactician as maybe like a Guardiola. A big stick about Pioli that we've said is that he also is a man manager and tactical at times. He gets out managed. We've seen that recently against Conte, for example. But in this game, what was so surprising, at least with him, the game that we're going to get to in a minute, he did look good. The team did look good, and at times when the team has been out of some starters, they have been not as fluid. Now they've still been pretty consistent, to your credit, and I think that's why the success has been there. So a question that was posed to me on the Forza Napoli podcast, I want to pose to you is, going into preseason, what your predictions were to where they are now. Have they changed any? Have you had aspirations of the league title or whatnot? Because I look from a Milan perspective, the goal for me the whole time was Champions League. It has to be Champions League because we had been out for such a long time. We still hadn't. It's been years. 2012, I think, is the last time we've been in. So that was the main goal for me. And even when we were at the top, it's like, look, Inter have been inconsistent, but they're right there. As long as we get top four, that's the goal. Has that been your goal? How's your perspectives changed at all, if at all, this season?
I just want to say how crazy it is that Milan has been in the Champions League since 2012. A club who's won it 7 times. It's so crazy. Sad. And I think about Man United, we haven't been in the Champions League consecutively since Sir Alex Ferguson left, so 2013. Now, if we get in this year, that's crazy. If we get in this year, and I said, the United Milan fixture should have been in the Champions League. That's a Champions League tie. I think back to the Kaká game when he scored those 2 at Old Trafford. Rooney scored the last minute winner. Then you destroyed us. This is about 07, I think. You destroyed us at the San Siro. But look, I said before the season, we didn't get the players we wanted, and that is important. But I always look at this United squad. When you've got a midfield potential talent of Paul Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, you've got forwards like Martial, Rashford, Greenwood, you've got Cavani now. You're looking at all these players and you think that's a lot of firepower. Yes, the defense has got issues, but that's a lot of firepower. And it just hasn't quite happened for us this season in terms of, the forward line performing. Marcus Rashford's been good.
Right.
I said second would be amazing because it's improvement on third. I didn't foresee Liverpool to be this bad. But I did say second and a trophy. And the key for me, this was the key. Champions League, you have to get out the group.
Yeah.
And us not getting out of the group when we had to get 1 point out of 2 games against PSG, we had to draw against PSG or against Leipzig. For me, that put a massive dent in my hopes and my trust for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because you had it in your hands. You had to shut up shop. You just had to be disciplined and play out a boring 0-0.
Yeah.
And that's like inexcusable. And too many fans say, oh, well, look, we're in second in the league. We're in the Europa League. We shouldn't have been there from where we were.
Correct.
The other thing as well, I never expected to win the title. I thought it'd be Manchester City. And I said consistently, we sat top of the table in January. I said that we're not going to win the league because our squad's not good enough. We're not well coached enough to win the league.
Right.
But I said, look, second. And I still maintain that. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets second. I'd like to win the trophy. I'm not convinced we'll win one. I don't think we'll win the Europa. I don't think we'll win the FA Cup. But I just think there needs to be tangible progress. But you can't forget about the Champions League. If this was Pioli, right, you're in the Champions League and you had 1 point from 2 games to get, and you get knocked out, you'd be upset, wouldn't you? You'd be thinking,
I mean, that's how Inter Milan fans feel, right? With Conte, and they had such high aspirations. They should have really gone deep into the Champions League, and they got knocked out in the group stage again. So, they have similar frustrations where, they may win the league, and if they don't win the league, it's an utter failure because they should have done better in Champions League, and they didn't.
I agree with that completely, and I think the fact they win, they look like they might win the league. If they win the league, I think that covers over the issues.
It should. It should, for at least for the time being. So, let's transition into the game that was leg one. A 1-1 game. It was an interesting game to say the least. You mentioned, Milan probably had the better of the play in this one. It was an interesting game because you had 2 clubs who had a lot of came to the game with pretty much a lot of injuries, right? Unsure of how the teams would be playing. I thought Milan, if they could find a way to get a draw on this one, that would be a successful game. But my worry was, I've seen you guys playing well, and I thought, maybe this could be a game where United comes out and busts out with a 4-0 win, and I'm like, then it's over. The leg's over. What was your overall assessment of this game? I mean, it was, even though Milan dominated for a good portions of it, it was still 1-1.
Look, the late goal is very disappointing to give away, and it's an away goal.
Yeah,
I think. Look, I don't subscribe to the idea. A lot of United fans saying, because remember Harry Maguire, how did he miss that? How did you miss that open goal? It was harder.
James
to miss
missed one too, right? A little later.
Yeah,
so.
James missed one. So a lot of fans said, "Oh, well, it could have been 3-0." But
Yeah.
just look at the bottom. So we had 7 shots at home. You had 15.
Yeah.
I was a little bit surprised when Kessie's goal got disallowed. I didn't really think it was a handball, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I think he was the best player on the pitch. He was brilliant. Look.
Yeah.
I said before the game, when you got Matic and McTominay playing together in that midfield, and we've got a serious problem in midfield without Paul Pogba. We've got an issue because we can't progress the ball forward. We've got no one that can play those passes forward into the forward line. Bruno Fernandes is getting more and more frustrated by the day because he's having to drop deep. And when he is getting the ball, he's not in positions to hurt you. And that was one of the biggest issues. I think I was disappointed in Manchester United. I'll tell you why I was disappointed. I was disappointed in how poor we were for at least the first 20 minutes. It's a bit of a recurring theme with United. Obviously, you're a Southampton fan. You've seen this. I know we beat you 9-0, but you've seen United in the first 10 minutes or so. They just never get going.
Yeah. It's been the stick all season long. It seems like you guys getting your own way in the first 20 minutes, then you're playing catch up the rest of the way. So
yeah, exactly. And in games, I mean, we've gone behind in over 50% of our Premier League games. That's really, yeah. And then after half time, that first 10 minutes after half time, again, we do the same. We concede goals. We finish very strongly in the last 10 minutes. We've got the most points from the losing position. I think it's like 21 points in the league, which is more than anyone else. But this is a problem, when you're seeing these repetitive things, which I see every single game we start slowly, I'm like, what is going on? What's being said in the dressing room? I'm not blaming just the managers, the players as well.
Sure.
And I just thought you guys were really good that first 25, 30 minutes. I thought, right, Milan looks so fluid. They look dangerous.
The passing was brilliant by Milan. I thought it was tic-tac-toe passing. It was smooth. And I was like, oh, okay, this is how we're going to play? Yeah. All right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I said before the game, I said to a few of the United fans on Twitter, I said, don't underestimate this Milan side. Don't underestimate them because, yes, they might have injuries, but they're a good side. I know you've had troubles as well leading up to this game. You haven't exactly been in your best form, but I said, don't underestimate them. And look, what I said essentially came true. I felt like 1-1 was a fair result, but I think easily, you could have felt disappointed at the fact that you did go 1-0 down like you did. I think that was something which was frustrating. But I'm just not convinced that this United side has enough to win the Europa League. There's some good sides left in it. It's a lot of heavy burden, isn't it, to play Europa League and then play your league campaign as well. We all know that Thursday, Sunday sort of schedule, which for some reason seems to make it more difficult for teams. But look, I think it set it up very nicely for the second leg, but we weren't very good at all. I was not impressed. But I'm happy it was 1-1 and nothing worse.
Yeah, I mean, you saw some warning signs early on where Leao scored a goal. He was offsides, clearly offsides, but scored a nice goal nonetheless. So that's a warning sign there. And then Kessie had obviously a brilliant shot, which they call back a handball. My new rule is if it's a questionable handball, but the goal is fantastic, let it stand. And it used to be the offside rule where you give it to the forward. They don't do that anymore.
Benefit out to the forward, yeah. I think one of the other issues as well is that the game's become very robotic. I don't know what VAR is like in Italy.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better.
Terrible hit. And it's just like they're checking everything. And personally, I thought the goal was so good. Like I would not have complained if it was given.
Yeah.
But none
of the players really complained either. So I mean,
exactly. I don't think many players noticed it was I didn't know it was a handball until it happened. But look, I think I completely agree. I think you guys, I was just impressed. I was impressed, and I tweeted about it saying that despite the injuries, because a lot of fans were saying, well, we've got Pogba, we've got Cavani, X amount of players, Van der Beek, who hardly plays, but, these players out. But I said, no, well, so have Milan. And that's where I come to the, the idea of the system. It's very interesting. You talk about Pioli, you maybe have, frustrations about him tactically, because I think that I'm not sure what his coaching team is like, whether there's a lot of good tacticians in there. Right. I always feel like that's really important. You've got to have a good team of coaches. We've got good coaches, inexperienced coaches as well. You need someone in there. You can have a great man. Like, for example, Sir Alex Ferguson was a great man manager. Absolutely. He wasn't the best tactician because we saw that. He only won 3 Champions Leagues. Right. 2 Champions Leagues in his time. But I think that one of the things that separates, good teams from great teams is the fact if their manager is a top tactician, they can get more out of the less talented players.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. And I think, to Pioli's credit, I think two of the saving graces for him are two guys who've been on the pitch that really help create the leadership there is, on the front end, you got Zlatan Ibrahimovic, obviously a 39-year-old and seems like he's 24. And then you got Simon Kjaer in the back, who's been, arguably our best defender all year long. And these are two of our elder statesmen in the team. And so they've been helping to spread the message of Pioli to the club on the pitch. And that's really helped them, especially with, when those two guys have been out, the youngsters have stepped up because of guys like that. They take off the pressure from the media, let the kids just play. And I think that's why Milan's played so well this season. So it's been interesting take. And it's so the game, obviously you have a youngster that's from the city, from Serie, from Atalanta, Amad Diallo. He comes in, at halftime and scores a beautiful goal. So like you were talking about Bruno Fernandes, and he's been one of the catalysts for your team, arguably your best player this season. He really didn't do much in this game. He had the one opportunity, and it was a beautiful pass. I mean, nobody could do anything about it. And Amad Diallo, just a wonderful header past Donnarumma. This is his first goal for United, right?
Yeah, first goal for United. He's he's been playing in the academy, and he's torn it up completely. And very early on, he was training for the first team. You're completely right. Look, Bruno Fernandes, I think for a while I think his performances have not been at the level that we expect from him in terms of maybe his decision making. You saw it. You saw his final ball was off. He was either holding on to it too long, or he's rushing it. A lot of things that causes this. One, mental fatigue and physical fatigue. He's knackered. Yeah. I mean, look, out of the top 5 players that played the most in the Premier League, 4 of them are Manchester United players.
Oh, wow.
That's a problem. Yeah. Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, and Marcus Rashford. And remember, this is a condensed fixture list, and you can imagine the fact. And this is the thing I think a lot of fans forget: players aren't robots, and that's why Marcus Rashford's in the squad for later on tonight. I said, rest him, don't kill him. He's still a kid, isn't he? He's 22, 23. Yeah, don't overplay them. But one thing about Bruno Fernandes, and I said this, is that he's the sort of player that if you give him one opportunity to do something special, he will do it. And that pass was as perfect as you can get. And the way that Diallo, I mean, look, he's a really, really exciting talent. Yeah. I've had quite a few people come on the podcast to discuss him, just to sort of give a player analysis on him. And one of the key things I think, look, apart from the fact that he is very good on the ball, he's a great dribbler, his decision making is very important. He plays like a natural winger, so he's always playing in occupying the pockets between the fullback and the centre back. He will run that channel. Yeah, that's really, really important. It's instinctive. He tracks back. I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but if a young player tracks back, especially if they're a winger, that's a big thing because they don't usually do that. Absolutely. You've got to do both sides of the game. I'm really excited about him, but I also feel sorry for the kid because he's come with a big expectation. He only played a handful of games at Atalanta. We all know how great their academy is. I mean, the way they run, it's almost like a fairy tale story, isn't it? The way that they're punching above their weight. And I just think that when you're looking at him, he needs to be eased in. And yet there's so much expectation at Manchester United because of the way the club's been run, saying Amad Diallo is the future. Kids are going to have good and bad games. You know this more than anyone. You've got a really young team, but like you said, you've got the elder statesmen there to try and take the pressure off. I mean, Zlatan, who better? And I loved him at Man United. Yeah. I really loved him. It fell apart from Mourinho when he left. But this is the thing. I think Diallo, fantastic talent. Let's see if he starts tonight. And I think he can go on to be phenomenally good. But the pressure is just so big in a club like Man United. And I'm sure it's the same at Milan, where the fan base is so big and they expect you to just hit the ground running. He's going to have dips in form. Like, that's what young players do.
Yeah, Milan have another player who maybe not the same hype as, maybe he does have the same hype, and I'm talking about Sandro Tonali. Everyone dubbed him as the next Pirlo 2.0, and when Milan signed him, fan base was already like, he's going to be the great, let him start automatically. And then, the first half of the season, he struggled mightily, and everyone said, give rid of him in January. And I'm like, hold on, this is a big club. He was a big fish in a small pond. Now he's a small fish in a big pond. He needs to acclimate to the team. And now we're seeing this last month, he's been one of the best midfielders for the club. Not Kessié, but, he's been very good. And now Milan have a very good problem where Tonali can actually start. Kessie's not going to be moved, and Benacer's got a starting spot. So you got possibly 3 strong midfielders there. You're set up for a long time. It's like, relax with some of these expectations, Yeah, they have a big price tag. I mean, look at Juventus, De Ligt, right?
Yeah.
8 million euros. And when he first joined them, they're like, he's a bomb. He's terrible. It's like, relax. There's a reason he was the captain of Ajax. He was very good. Now you're seeing he's one of the better defenders. So it's like, slow your expectation. Not everybody can jump in like Messi from the beginning and tear up the league. It's a patience.
Do you think it's a problem with modern fans though, Richard? Because when you look at it, like how many people, I don't know if it was like this back in the day. Maybe it's just the Twitter generation. I'm sure it was like this, when everyone's sitting in the pubs and they're watching football and was like, oh, this guy's rubbish.
Yeah.
But I do think it's the modern day. I think young players, that's why I'm always, I love the idea of, developing youth in your academy and promoting them. I think that's so important, especially for a club like Manchester United.
Yeah.
It's part of the DNA. And you have to do it. But I always say, why bring them into a dressing room where this is not Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson, where we had winners everywhere, like Wayne Rooney, Ronaldo, these winners, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs. It's not like that anymore. So to bring a young player into a dressing room which is potentially underperforming, not the right winning mentality in there, not enough quality, you can derail a youth player's or a young player's career in that space because you've given so much
100%,
pressure.
100%.
The confidence is a big thing, isn't it? You got to develop them. You got to bring them in slowly. But then conversely as well, some managers are too scared to play players when they're good enough to play.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a balance. It's a difficult one. I think modern football, and I think Twitter's contributed to this, it's made it harder because I think if you've got a certain view on something, someone doesn't agree, it doesn't matter how much you try and reason with them.
You can't.
They're not going to listen, Richard. So it's just mental, man.
Yeah, and you could tell sometimes the age of people by what they tweet. Like they're comparing somebody to like a legend. You're like, how old are you? Like, what are you talking about? Like, really? And it's funny sometimes. I mean, like, I don't understand some of these comparisons at times, and it gets ridiculous. And you cannot argue with somebody because you're going to be wrong no matter what you say, whether you're right or not. Right? So it's just these expectations. I think you're 100% right. You can't bring in a young player to a team that's not have a winning mentality in the locker room. It's just toxic. I heard a great quote yesterday during the Schalke match. Schalke has been famed for their youth academy. And yes, they had all these products come through the team just because the team was successful. And that's why the players started performing well. Now you bring in the young player into a team that's very poor, has a lot of fragility in the mind. They're not going to be successful. And so that's, to your point, you have to baby them in. You have to work them in slowly. Some players are ready. No doubt about it. But most players, they have to acclimate to the situation and make sure that they're ready, mature for that spotlight because it is difficult. So,
can I ask you a question as well?
Because
I know you are a Schalke fan, and I know we've seen Kobalt go to Liverpool. And actually, that's why I was going to get you on before he moved to Liverpool because we saw a few reports from Manchester United, and I like what I've seen from him. But look, he's 20 years old, and the usual case. Look, he's gone into a struggling side. Look, they've lost 6 at home. I think. Yeah. For the first time I think it's the first time they've ever done that. They're in a really bad spot.
They are
a horrible situation to drop the kid into, especially when they're Schalke, they're struggling as well. So I kind of want to ask you about Kobalt quickly, but also this ties into Milan. Ralf Rangnick was meant to come in. And I said at the time, because I had Rui come on the podcast and we did a little bit of a Milan sort of special. And I said to him, it kind of reminds you of this situation, let's say, with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where let's say he gets second. It's a good squad here. You bring someone in better, takes them to the next level, despite someone doing really well. So I always saw that with Pioli. I thought he'd done a fantastic job, but he'd done so well that Rangnick would then take you guys to the next level. Do you think, do you regret the fact you didn't actually bring Rangnick in, or do you think it was the right idea to stay with Pioli and give him trust? Because sometimes I do look and think Ralf Rangnick would have been, he is the best director of football in the game.
Yeah, and I've always been a pro Rangnick guy, no matter where he's going to go, because I think he's going to improve that club, right? So it's funny because Pioli was struggling at one time last year, and at that time, if you told me to bring in Rangnick, I said 100% because, and I think I even said on my podcast, I said, look, Rangnick's going to come in, he's going to develop everybody. It's going to be all about youth, all about a certain style of play, which is very attractive, and 100% bring him in because he is that next step over Pioli. He's not necessarily a great manager, but he's a great sporting tactician. He's a great sporting director. He can really develop a club. But then Pioli went on this hot streak at the end of the season. I think when those rumors started, the team really rallied around Pioli. Maybe they thought it was very unfair criticism of him. And so they went on this massive hot streak at the end of the season, unbeaten. And then all of a sudden, when those rumors came up again, the hierarchy looked at this and said, like, well, why are we going to change things? Because the team is actually playing very well at the moment. Let's not make a rash decision. This could be negative impact on the team. And so I think at that time it was a correct call, because I thought, I even said it on the podcast, I was like, yeah, when something's working very well, you don't want to necessarily mess it up because it could damage things. Now, if it's just running progressively better, but not necessarily freaking hot like it was in Milan, then yes, you bring him in and you improve on the situation. But I thought the way that Pioli and the team had rallied around him was probably the wrong decision to bring him in, despite how much I love Rangnick. And I'm not regretful that he wasn't signed. I think the way Maldini is now taking leadership of the back room, he's trying to implement the way that it was back in his day when he played. And so I think they're in the right track. And, with the Elliott management taking over with the club, it's been very stable there. We haven't had stability in a long time. And so now he's just looking for the next owner, whether it's, Arnaud or whomever. Elliott's going to wait, and it's stable at the moment, and everything right now seems to be working fine. And I think ultimately, looking in hindsight, it was the right move. But, Rangnick is somebody who I think deserves to have another shot at a big club, and maybe it's Schalke. Who knows?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to Schalke. Is he joined, or he's...
No, it's a rumor, and it was funny because the rumor, not to go off topic real quick, but the rumor was either Rangnick or the Leipzig sporting director, Kroosche, which is his name, young guy. And I'm like, why would he leave Leipzig for Schalke? Makes no sense whatsoever. And people kept saying, no, that's what the supervisory board wanted. And he denied it today. He's like, I'm not leaving Leipzig. Why would you? Right? So it's probably going to be Rangnick, but, they're going to go through the arguments, in the back room, so whatever. All right. Before we get to the preview of the second leg, a guy who is near and dear to both of us, an ESPN analyst, Stevie Nicol, he had some choice words after the game. So on ESPN, they asked him, well, what was his thoughts about the game? He said, honestly, both teams are garbage. Neither team can win. I wasn't impressed by what I saw. They were poor on the field, the rain. I just didn't want to watch it. I disagree wholeheartedly. I'm just curious on your thoughts, not only on Stevie, but just his assessment of the match from the first leg.
Oh, Stevie Nicol. Oh, he's... I don't know if there's a saying, like, where you are. Are you America or Canada?
America. DC.
Yeah. So, yeah, DC, nice. So, obviously, stealing a living. That's something to stay here. He's stealing a living. So, that's what I've got to say about him. Look, I think, especially with ESPN, I find it a lot... Obviously, it is an American publication. It's not in the UK. But what I do find a lot is that when you see a story about Manchester United, I don't know if it's the same for Milan, but it's always a negative.
Yeah.
So even when Manchester United were challenging for the title, maybe in January sort of time, there was still negativity coming out.
Yeah.
I thought that, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's quite a character, isn't he? But I think one of the things I will say is that there is obviously the feeling that both sides aren't at their peak of their powers. We know that.
Yeah.
Let's be completely honest. We also know that both sides had 5 or 6 players out. So I do imagine in the second leg as well, Manchester United have to go and win. That's reality, because there's the away goal. So both are good sides. Both played below their capability. I thought you guys played much better than we did. We were shocking. And I saw a lot of, obviously I commented on your post saying that you guys are better than us. And this narrative that, yes, United were poor, but it wasn't just because United were poor. Milan made United look poor.
Correct.
I think this is a problem. So I feel like because Manchester United was so bad, there's too many, especially in the UK, too many news outlets, news publications saying things like, oh, well, there's only the reason why Milan looked good is because United were poor. And it's nonsense. And there's this Premier League arrogance. I watch Serie A. I don't watch as much as I used to over the last few years, but I still watch it. It's my second league. Don't worry, I'm not wearing an Inter shirt if that's what you're thinking.
I was going to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I've got a soft spot for Milan. Like, I sort of go in between. I don't really have a club, but people are trying to convert me to Lazio and play clubs like that. But I like Milan.
That's Jerry for you. That's Jerry for you.
So, look, having a look at it all, I think it's absolute nonsense. They've got to sell newspapers. How are they going to do it? Let's just pile in on 2 massive clubs, 2 clubs that obviously clearly aren't where they were a decade ago. It wasn't a terrible game by any means. I thought it was quite an intriguing game to see what would happen. I don't think you played like a typical Italian side at all. I don't think you sat there and you sat back and you contained us. I thought you guys actually, you pressed us, you played on the front foot, you were aggressive. We weren't expecting that. So look, I think anything he says you take with a pinch of salt. Both sides, I think, on their day are good enough to win this competition. But I do feel like both sides have one eye on the league and thinking, you know what, we're both sitting high up in our league.
That's
like
we'll
get Champions League if we, if I'm not sure what your expectations are as a club. I'm not sure if if Pioli needs to win a trophy, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs to win a trophy. But I think most fans will sacrifice Europa League if that means we can secure second and get back into Champions League.
Yeah, I don't think Pioli needs to win a title or anything, but I think showing a good performance in European competition and then doing well in the league is very vital. And I argue both of our clubs are in a situation where they need to go deep in a title in a European race while being competitive in the league, because this is what both our clubs have been known for throughout our history, right? Is going deep into these European competitions and trying to win the league. Why not do it now? You need that experience. If you want to get in the Champions League next year, you're going to have the same situation, right? So why not do the dry run now, do the practice, and give it a go?
It's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah,
and
I was go
ahead.
To add,
no, please do.
Yeah, so just to add as well, because I actually had someone say to me, "Oh, we should forfeit. We should let Milan win it," and I'm like, "When have we ever done that?"
Yeah.
And I do think there is an element of, because it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Would we have said that under Jose Mourinho? Think about it. No. Unless we were sitting sixth and we couldn't get top four, then yeah, that's what he did in his first season, I think. Yeah. But this is the problem. I think because we've been where we are and because we've got a legend as a manager, I don't know if the same was under Gattuso or Seedorf when, or was Inzaghi manager as well at some stage? Yeah. I don't know if it's the same when you were there, but I feel like some of the fan base struggled to differentiate between Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the player, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the manager. And what you've got then is you've got fans saying, "Oh, we should forfeit it." You make such a great point. Champions League is the same. What's the difference this year? Like, you've got to win everything. You've got to try and win every single game. And unfortunately, I think there is a section of the fan base that don't. They give a buy because of who he is. Oh, well, he's not Jose, so the expectations aren't the same. That's nonsense.
Yeah. If we were in the Champions League Sweet 16, will we say the same thing? No, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't. Yeah. So that's the crazy thing. And you talked about the English bias or the Premier League bias, and I have no ill feeling against England or the Premier League or anything. It's just sometimes the comments that come out, I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's for many other commentators that come out, they're still used to of the Catenaccio style Italian play where it's all defensive, this and that. And that's what they're expecting. And Serie A doesn't play that anymore. There are a few teams, if they're usually at the bottom of the table, who play that. All the best teams are playing attractive football. Look at Atalanta. They're one of the most attractive teams in the world. And so, yeah, a lot of teams are, when they play these Serie A teams, they're like, oh, wait, I didn't expect that. And so the bias is what drives me crazy. And it's not just the Premier League. We've seen it also if you're watching the Champions League and it's Barcelona or Real Madrid, all they talk about is those clubs. They don't talk about the other teams. It's unfair when there's two good teams involved, so that's where my whole thing came about. So let's go through the preview of the second leg. Obviously, we were both familiar with playing in European competitions. We know the importance of what the results are in the first leg. Many people want to write off either team, because say, oh, Milan didn't win, so they're going to lose, or Man United, they gave up a goal. We both know that both clubs are in a okay position. Milan slightly better, but both teams can win this. We've seen this in 2007 when you guys won the first leg, and then they said, oh, Milan has no chance, and they came back and won. And we've seen the flip, a couple years later. So we are experienced enough to know that both teams are in it. What are you looking for into the second leg? What's gonna take for United to win this game?
Well, the first thing is, I think, which is very important to remember, and I'm not sure if the listeners know, but Manchester United haven't lost in a year away. Our away record is phenomenal, like genuinely phenomenal. I think in the calendar year as well, in the league, I think we've only lost 4 games. We've just drawn a lot of games, so there is a result.
Same to Milan, who are the same thing. That's what So they
better away. I don't know if it's stage fright or whatever when we played at Old Trafford and the fans are there. Our home record, or maybe it's the other way around, no fans being there United struggle to get up for it, because often when you're at Old Trafford and when the goal goes in, I mean, look, we all going absolutely mental. Yeah, it just goes, and then they say as well. They say the Stretford end like sucks the ball into the net. Because the fans, when like I'm sure it's similar in San Siro. When Milan go down to a smaller side and then they get the equaliser and then everyone's up for it and they just carry the players home. And I think there's a legitimate argument to say that that's been the case. I'm not making excuses because everyone's played without fans, but Manchester City have no fans in general, so they are used to playing in empty stadiums. They were only invented a couple of years ago with some oil money, but no,
that's right.
They're on a different level. They'll probably win the Champions League this year. Pep doesn't tinker too much. But I think that what I would like to see from United is I think we'll have possibly Paul Pogba back. I'm really hoping. Such a big Pogba fan. I think the way he's been treated in the UK since he's moved here is pretty disgusting. I think that there's a racial element to it. I don't want to go into too much depth about that. But yeah, I think if he comes back, it's a completely different game, because United then have the ability to get the ball to the forwards. And one thing I think we didn't get to see enough, and you can correct me if you're wrong on this, but I feel like when I have watched Milan, I think pace, especially from opposition forwards, has been a problem for them, and we didn't see any of that the other day. We weren't able to exploit that. So hopefully, if we have someone in midfield that can get the ball forward, and if Cavani's back as well, he's got such clever movement, in and around the box. I think, he's got that experience as well. I think at the moment, what United lacked, Martial's had a difficult season. What United lacked is had someone who could make some space for himself in the box. I think that was key. And I expect that Luke Shaw will start as well. Luke Shaw's been really good this season. Obviously, you're a Saints fan, so you remember Luke Shaw come through.
I do.
Under Pochettino as well, a manager who I'm a massive fan of. But he's really showing that he's a very good progressive ball carrier. Him on that left-hand side, he's been probably the best left fullback in the Premier League, and you can argue he's been that good. He possibly is in talks to be up there with the best in Europe, currently on current form. And I think what United need to do is they need to really utilize these sort of players. And then I think the next thing they need to do as well, get Bruno Fernandes nearer towards goal, which we didn't do in the first leg at all. But the reason why we couldn't do that is we don't have someone like Paul Pogba to get the ball to him. So look, I think it's very much in the balance. It's be interesting to see what you do. If you guys sit back, I think that could be quite a sensible thing to do, because we struggle to break down, teams that sit deep. If you decide to go at us, I think that would be possibly a poor tactic, because I think United can really hurt teams in transition. We've got the players to do that. Yeah. I'm going to put my neck out on the line, and I'm going to say that United will win this 2-1, and I think then, I think that's what's going to happen, and I think we'll go through. But look, this guy could be completely wrong. It's going to go either way. I think our away record will just about carry us through. We can't play any worse than we did in the first leg.
That's true. And that's a very good point you brought about, Milan, when they've struggled this season, it has been because of pace on the wing. Theo Hernandez, while he does love to get forward, it does leave him vulnerable going defensively. And that's why I think it's important, no matter, it'll be curious to see who starts for Milan. Because I think Tomori needs to be out there, because not only is he a fantastic player, he's got that pace and he can keep up with anybody. We've seen that where, if there's a deficiency somewhere, he'll catch up to them and make a great tackle. So I think if he's out there, you'll likely see, depending on who joins Kessie in the midfield, whether it's Tonali or maybe a Benacer comes back, you'll probably see someone shade over to Teo's side to help him. We saw that in a couple games earlier before the United game, where Kessie was helping Theo Hernandez, try to shade, because the issue of the flanks, and Calabria has been pretty good this season. So most teams have been taking advantage of the left wing side. So that is an area I think you guys can play. I think, and you're right, if Milan start attacking United, they'll leave themselves vulnerable. And then for those counterattacks, Internazionale destroyed Milan because of that. And I think, if Milan play with a counterattack style mentality, they have a good opportunity. But it depends what kind of formation we see from Milan. It'll be a chess match for sure. Obviously, we want to see what both lineups of the teams bring. I think a key for Milan is that midfield again. They look so smooth, so effortlessly.
Yeah.
They
you dominated the midfield battle, didn't you? And that was a key. That's why you won. I think another thing to add as well is that you guys have, like you said, probably you can be exploited down your left flank. We have no right flank. You know, we don't have a right winger. Ahmad played the other day. Diallo, he came on, but our attacks, 70% of our attacks have come down our left-hand side this season. We're very, very, we're very unbalanced. So that's another issue for us. You know, do we put Rashford out there and play someone else on the left? So I think that's one of the reasons why we struggled to exploit you as well, because whoever was playing on the right wasn't effective. But you won the midfield battle, so whoever wins the midfield battle, I think probably wins this game.
Yeah.
And if Paul Pogba doesn't play, you win it. Simple as that.
Okay, that's a good shot. And I think you predicted 2-1 for United. I'm gonna go the flip of that. Oh, why wouldn't I, right? 2-1 for Milan, Victor. I think there'll be goals for both teams. I think both teams, well, they do play well defensively. At times they do have lapses. We saw that with Milan for certain, with those missed opportunities that you guys had, as well as the wonderful goal that was scored. Nothing anyone could have done about that. Beautiful pass, beautiful goal. But I think both teams are susceptible to missing the game, missing a couple moments, and then the other team takes advantage of it. And I think whoever's most clinical is going to win in this. So it'll be a big tie. I think. I don't think it'll be a blowout. You know, these two teams are as good as they are. They're historically they're probably going to play close as they have been historically. So yeah, it'll be a good tie no matter what. I'm excited for it. It's a big game coming up Thursday. Yeah, well, I'm more happy that you're here on this podcast. I'm glad you joined us here. Please tell our followers where they can find you on social media and your podcast.
Yeah, honestly, Richard, thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been a long time coming to do a collaboration. You're doing some fantastic work. I absolutely love the graphics and everything. It's fantastic. You're doing really, really well. Obviously, you can see on the screen, I don't know if you guys listen to this in audio, but if you do, it's at Haider_Rubani. And then you can find the masterclass on many platforms now. So it's called the Football Masterclass. Just type that into YouTube. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitch as well. I haven't really got my head around that because I'm a bit old. It's for younger kids. I haven't got my head around it yet. Eventually, I'll have to do that at some stage. You can follow us on Twitter as well at T, F, and then M Masterclass, one word. And yeah, look, if you're interested in just hearing analysis, quite deep into tactics, but also it's not boring, because I think a lot of people do it quite boring. They go a bit overboard. If you're interested in listening about United's tactics, and just what's going on with Manchester United in general, myself and Rob's fantastic. Obviously, he's a journalist. He's a very well-known journalist that works, and he's got good connections in Manchester United. So definitely check it out, because look, Milan and United, I think they're very similar teams. I think they're hurt fan bases. We have a lot of pride. We've seen our teams at the absolute pinnacle for so many years, and to see where we are now hurts, but you got to support your club through thick and thin. And I really hope that you guys get back to where you were, because you're an amazing club. It's one of my dreams to go to San Siro one day. So, well, I know you guys are actually building a new stadium, aren't you? I think
we're trying. Yeah, we are trying.
Yeah. So. But hopefully one day I'll be able to make that trip to Italy when things have calmed down a little bit.
Fair enough, and I'm also looking forward to get to Old Trafford someday too, as well. So and back to San Siro, of course, or whoever the new stadium is. So.
Let me know when you're at Old Trafford, mate, and we'll make a day of it.
We'll do for sure. As always, you can follow me at @R_KHARMAN. We are part of the World Football Index. Sitdown. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it. We are there. So definitely give us a check out. Make sure you follow us on our YouTube page, and give us a subscribe and a like, and leave a comment. It'd be much, much appreciated. Until the next episode comes, which is on Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will catch you then. Thank you, Haider, and we'll see you next week. Ciao. 1, 2, make it bounce.